all the extinct jobs we see in old movies, my favorite is whoever is the person who paints letters on office glass doors.
Yeah, detail work.
And it's such good shorthand that we no longer have in movies anymore. That used to be a thing when you go into someone's office and you see someone painting the letters, we know they just got that job.
Yeah.
Or you see someone removing letters and you're like, oh, someone just got fired.
Yes.
That doesn't exist as a little trope anymore.
Yeah.
It was a big part of a lot of movies. I remember, not like seriously, but as a kid going like, I'm going to be an office letterer one day because it was integral to a lot of movies, and it's big in this one.
Now, well, at my work, that's the only frame of reference I have is it's like a printable template.
Yeah, there's no romance in that.
Slide that in. I was excited. I'm always excited to see my name in my little like placard on my cubicle, but it's not the same as having like a glass window with your name written on it. Mm-hmm. I would like that.
Well, let's see if we can get that set up.
Great.
Well, welcome everyone to a mildly Christmassy episode of I Love This, You Should Too. My name is Indy Mildly Festive Randhawa, and with me is Samantha, Letters on My Office Door Randhawa.
Hello.
Hi. So we are in the Christmas season. The last episode was kind of Christmassy. This one's going to be a little lighter on Christmas.
Yes.
But just in case you're not feeling festive, you might hear some of the Christmas music being blasted by our neighbors.
So it's a little more Christmassy just by default. Our neighbors are currently soundchecking, so it might be Halloween, it might be Christmas. We're not sure.
I don't know. It doesn't sound great right now.
Yeah.
It'll be festive later once they get it together.
Santa's up.
But in another pretty festive thing, both of us sound like this. Maybe we don't sound bad. I don't know. But we're both sick.
I feel like my voice has gotten gravelier as I've gotten better from this illness. So I feel like this is going to be a terrible podcast voice.
I think we sound fine. No one will even notice.
No one will even know.
Today we are talking all about the 1960 kind of Christmassy movie, The Apartment. I had said that this was a fantastic movie, even though I hadn't seen it in many years. Samantha had never seen it, but I suggested it. And you know what? She has to watch it now because it's on the show. So I love this movie. Samantha, did you?
I liked it. Classic Samantha answer. Sorry. I liked it. I thought it was like fun. I enjoyed all of the classic movie tropes. And I think that it was charming. I found it very charming. Is that on the list of the scale? Charming. Yeah,
where does charming that's below love is charmed?
I think charmed, love, the most love.
That's the scale? Yeah. Charmed, love, the most love?
Yes.
Okay. I'll have to write that down somewhere.
Great.
I hadn't seen this in a long time, and it's fantastic. I was about to say I have nothing else to say, but I better have something else to say because we have a whole podcast to do on it.
You have to say some stuff.
I think it holds up very well. I think the technical aspects in the direction are so much better than mostly everything that I see. So I think this is fantastic, and I still love it.
It was pretty great. Yeah. I thought that it was well written. I didn't think there was like a lot of flab, which I feel like current movies probably have. I don't think that they were trying to be flashy, which I feel like a lot of like modern movies are like, oh, just look at all the cool stuff we can do with like nothing to back it up. Yep. Like there's no reason for using all of that stuff. I just think that like, oh, I have billions of dollars and I'm just gonna like use all the toys in my toy box for no reason. This was like everything made sense in this movie. The effects that they used made sense, the sound made sense, and I just think that like it was just kind of a great compilation of what was available at the time.
It's such a well-constructed movie. I think the hard thing about talking about it is going to be that I would rather watch the movie and go scene by scene and say, this is why this is fantastic and how it leads into each thing. Mm-hmm. There's great economy of storytelling. It's 2 hours long, which is long for a romantic comedy, but doesn't feel like it. There's not much wasted. The direction is tight. It makes sense to everything, and it's anchored by two great performances. So let's start off then, because we're not going to go scene by scene because we'd be here for longer than the movie. I think that this is a movie that is now 85 years old. Is that right?
Yeah.
That can't be right.
Right? That's how math
65
works.
years old.
65 years old. I was like, just totally trusting of your math ability.
Still, 65 years old that's an old movie.
That's an old movie.
And it doesn't feel like it. Of course, it looks like it in the sense that it's a black and white movie. There are literal jobs that don't exist anymore. There's people whose jobs are just running elevators, and we don't have that. So, of course, it's dated in those ways. But as a movie, I found this remarkably contemporary, feeling, sounding, and looking.
I thought that it was a nice representation of another time. I really loved the idea that you could just run an elevator as your job, and then you just wore a cute outfit and you were that was your job.
Get harassed.
Oh, I mean, that wasn't great, but I just enjoyed the visual representation of jobs that don't exist now. Speaking of jobs that don't exist, elevator operator is one of them.
Yeah, so we have no computers, elevator operators, things like that. But there's nothing in the story or the characters that makes them feel out of touch with our time. So much of it is oddly timeless or even modern in a way. The affairs and powerful men doing whatever they want and people making decisions that aren't in their own best interests and the social and corporate climbing, none of that feels dated. And post Mad Men, Samantha just watched her very first episode of Mad Men, which I think is taking place in the exact same year as this. So that's interesting. And we are going to do an episode on Mad Men eventually.
I will admit that attempting to podcast after watching Mad Men more recently than we watched The Apartment, it took me a really long time to get my bearings again today, because I was thinking about it at work, and I was I really need to stop thinking about Mad Men, because I did know that those are similar time periods, similar environments, and I was I can't think about Mad Men because then I'm just going to talk about that. I enjoy this time, and I enjoy the fashion. The fashion was great.
So post Mad Men, and now looking back on it, we kind of assume that all of these execs are having affairs, but that wasn't in contemporaneous media. You rarely saw that depicted on screen in the 60s, so it was really shocking to a lot of people when it came out. Fred MacMurray talks about how people yelled at him on the street for making this filthy, filthy movie.
Cool.
Most movies of the time, and maybe even still now, just would pretend that infidelities don't exist, and you might get the odd couple that say they exist, but then they make that person the villain of the story, like we see in modern romantic comedies. But this is progressive and almost revolutionary in that it's showing that these infidelities are happening essentially constantly in this world, and everyone we meet in our story is complacent in it in some way or another. It's not just, that's for bad people. That's for people. The people that we are relating to and the stories that we are following too. And then in addition to the subject matter, when we watch older movies, the pacing seems slower, effects seem dated, it looks old. And this is a black and white movie, which is a later period black and white. But I would argue that it looks so well put together that it looks more well put together than much of what we see today.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this one, if it was in color, would seem like a way newer movie. It didn't feel like a black and white movie. Yeah. Were we making, I'm bad at film time, but were we making color movies at this time?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know where we were in the Wizard of Oz of it all. But I just think that this, if it was in color, I feel like it would seem much newer. It flowed really nicely, and it didn't seem as slow as some of the black and white movies that we've watched.
Yeah, it is a later black and white one. I didn't find anything on that, although I didn't really look. Like, why did they shoot this in black and white? Because Wilder, I think, was making color movies by this point.
Oh.
And like I said, this was the last black and white movie to win Best Picture.
Oh, okay. It didn't feel like a black and white movie. Maybe that's rude to black and white movies. But...
Well, it doesn't feel old.
Yes.
Because his technique is both seamless and timeless. It doesn't draw attention to itself. Billy Wilder, the director, he doesn't draw a lot of attention to the direction with like more contemporary to us directors do with, look at all these fun things I'm doing. And that can be great, but he does everything in service of the story and of the characters, I feel like it. And then that in conjunction with this darkness or harsh realism that this movie has makes it feel not that old.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that this is a very modern story for a older film.
Yeah, no, I wonder why we think that way, because we have this association from like, yeah, Mad Men and this, that people, this is the time when people are cheating on each other all the time. Yet we feel like, oh, the old movies of the 60s or the time of the 60s, that's when everything was pure. But no, they just weren't putting it in film. That's all.
We also just like didn't have the internet and phones and photo capabilities with us at all times.
We just didn't know.
So you just like, it was easier, I think, to get away with an affair.
That's true.
Than it would be now, because you're like tracking your loved ones. Are
you tracking me?
No, I'm not tracking you.
We don't need to, like, it would be so hard for either of us to ever cheat on the other. Like, there's no time where we're not together.
No, and then when we're at work, we both have like pretty random jobs where you go like pretty much everywhere in the city. You know, it would be hard to tell. But
oh, you're going the other way. You're saying it would be easy to cheat. Interesting that your mind went there, Samantha.
No, I'm just saying that like with tracking capabilities doesn't come like complete ability to know what's going on.
Okay. You've given me a lot to think about.
I'm not saying I'm cheating on you. This is not.
You're just saying you could.
No, I'm just saying we're just in very random places at all times when we're not together. But I do think that this was a time where it was harder to track. And I think, to reference the one episode of Mad Men I've seen, wives are saying like, oh, I phoned your office and they said you left. End of information that you're able to get.
And in this world, the secretary who's fielding that call is the one you're cheating with.
Exactly.
So they're going to cover things up.
So yeah, it's like a lot harder to figure out where your spouse is, just because like once they're away from a phone, how do you find them?
Yeah. Well, maybe let's talk about our two leads. Let's start off with Jack Lemmon, who plays Mr. Baxter. What's his name? Cece? I forget what it stands for now.
Cece Baxter.
But I like when they call them Mr. Baxter and Miss Kublik.
Yeah.
How'd you like Mr. Baxter?
I thought he was charming in like a non-creepy way.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I usually don't associate creep with charm.
I don't know. Sometimes you get those like kind of slimy, charming guys who are like, I don't know what you'd call them, like fast talkers.
Oh, like Fred MacMurray in this one, maybe.
Yes. Sure. Who's like, he's got an underlayer of like creep. He seemed, Jack Lemmon seemed to be like very charming and just kind of earnest. And like what you see is what you get. And I really liked him in this role. I thought that he was like kind of the perfect pushover that would get into this situation. Like it was believable. And I just thought he was like an all around nice guy.
I like Jack Lemmon a lot, but he was interesting in, he's definitely the minority of leading men of the time, because he was neither the handsome rugged one or the kind of smooth talker like you were mentioning. He is the everyman. That's what he brings to it. And I think that's easier for people to relate with, to put yourself in there. It's not Rock Hudson or someone, right? It's Jack Lemmon. I could be a Jack Lemmon. And he gives a great comedic performance that is physical and silly, but not slapsticky or over the top. Mm-hmm. Because there is that realm, especially in older movies, when the physicality, those things don't always play to me unless you're like Buster Keaton or Charlie Chaplin and that's your bit. But this is a good balance of that, I thought.
I agree. I thought he was charming, to use that word again.
Of the day.
It's my word of the day. It's my word for this movie is charming.
I like right at the beginning when we see him coming back to his apartment. He's cleaning up after everybody else. He's making that TV dinner. He's waiting for the movie to start. But of course, he's getting postponed because there's more and more sponsors. He's drinking other people's leftovers and he says cheers to himself. And that sequence is both so funny and so sad and just tells you exactly who this character is. Or maybe not who he is yet, but it tells you what his life is like.
Yeah, I thought that his whole life seemed a little sad at the beginning, and then he gets this like good little bit of like hope when he is like meeting the Shirley MacLaine character. And I thought that like that was such a nice little injection of hope, and then it kind of goes bad as well. So I thought that his, I don't know, sad little life. That seems like you're belittling it, but like
it was very much a sad little life.
He's getting kicked out of his life in the
Sleeping
middle of
on
the
park
night,
benches,
like,
so people can bang in his bed. That's a sad little life.
That's creepy and sad. And yeah, I just thought that he played that really, really well, and he seemed to still have like some hope that he would be promoted or like have a better life eventually, and then like somehow this would stop.
Yeah, and I think that's how he gets caught up in this. He thinks something better is going to happen. I would feel that the ways he's going about it and the success he gets that way is ultimately hollow and is ultimately not fulfilling. But you mentioned that you think he's he's a nice guy. Do you think he's a nice guy? For, let's say, the first 70% of the movie. I
think he's a nice guy. I think he's a little too naive for like where he's working, I guess, because it seems like every other guy in that place is like out for himself.
I think that he's not that nice of a guy. I think definitely he is being taken advantage of by people who are worse than him. But I think he's still kind of a dick too, right? Like, he's not an especially bad guy, but he is complicit in bad stuff. He's not worrying about the wives or the girlfriends. He didn't seek out this setup in a villainous way or anything, but he does go along with it for his own benefit. But I don't think that's a shortcoming of the movie. I think it's a shortcoming of that character that is then remedied in the movie. I think the movie is better off by making him kind of a dick too. I think he is kind of a creep. But he's compared to other guys who are not so bad. So we're like, yeah, he's a nice guy, but he's not that nice of a guy for most of the movie. I'm saying that this is a good thing that the movie made him like this, because I think it's more interesting, because if he was just this benevolent victim, what's the arc? Like, oh, the nice guy ends up with the girl, maybe. That's nice. That's not as good as someone who is on that boundary of being one of these sleazeballs and then choosing to go the other way and be a mensch. Yeah. Right? That bit that Dr. Dreyfus is always saying of like, be a mensch. He does. He takes that to heart, and he does change his own behaviors. And I think a lesser movie would have this, especially a male character who is next to a bunch of jerk male characters. Yeah, he's good enough. He's a nice guy. It's that whole nice guy syndrome. I'm not like them, but that's not enough. To not be terrible is not enough.
To be the nicest of the worst,
yes,
is not the best.
Yeah, and I think it's very impressive that a movie from the 60s gets something that romantic comedies now do not get. Because you're like, oh, you're not the one cheating. You're just kind of there. What a nice guy.
Yeah.
No, that's not a nice guy. He's
allowing it.
Yeah, he's a part of it. Sure, he's a victim as well, but he is also victimizing others to get ahead.
Yeah. He's
trying to get ahead in the business world because I think he thinks that will fulfill him in some way. Because ultimately, I think this movie is about loneliness. And he is incredibly lonely, and he's trying to get ahead, and he's really only thinking of the business world and not anything else for the most part. And early on, we Miss Kubelik says, like, oh, you're the nice one because you take off your hat. But he also, like, looked into her personnel profile and learned all about her.
Yeah, found her address and who she lives with.
Yeah, which I guess in this world is less creepy, but still not cool.
No, I'd be very creeped out if I was being asked out by someone who already knew exactly where I lived and, like, who I lived with.
Yeah, and I think that's put in there not just for a joke, because we have him next to people who are like slapping her on the butt. So we think, oh, he's not so bad. He's interested in her. But he's not going about it in the right ways. But he does get there eventually. Mm-hmm. It's not until later when he takes it to heart to be a mensch and he rejects that world, that corporate world, all the sleazy stuff that those guys are doing, and says, that's it, I'm out, and gives that key back. And of course, keys have been such a symbol throughout this that we have another one being very important when he gets out. That's what he does to redeem himself. It's not just being there and not taking advantage of Miss Kubelik when she's near death. It's not that, oh, he takes off his hat. That's not what makes him good. It's that he sees what that world is, the world that he's been trying to get into, and ultimately rejects it. It's interesting to see someone who's caught up in this corporate patriarchal world, this capitalist world, who isn't the one pulling the strings, but is trying to benefit on the backs of others and eventually completely pull himself out of that world to be a mensch. Mm-hmm. So that's why I like his turn. I think it's much better that he was, in my mind, a gray area character who makes the choice to be good, not just someone who is good by default because he's not as bad as those other guys.
Right. I did really enjoy what his neighbors thought of him.
That's such a fun bit. I like
that
a lot.
whole, like, again? like, and him getting home in, like, the middle of the night and coming outside or, like, being locked out. And they're like, oh, it sounds like you had a guest tonight. And, like, how'd you get locked out? It was just, like, it was such a good ongoing kind of storyline of, like, his neighbors just thinking he's, like, just crazy.
And I wonder if that's kind of intentional on Baxter's character's part. Like, he never says, like, oh, I'm not doing all this, I'm a good guy. Because maybe he feels a little guilty because he is part of this. Not as much as these other guys, but he's still kind of dipping his toes in that world. Mm-hmm. And I love later in the movie when he tries to be a bad guy and says, like, oh, yeah, I have a date over there, no big deal, whatever. And for a second you think, oh, did he become one of them? But that woman was just someone that was walking down the street. He doesn't even know.
Just, like, waiting.
And that is such a sad thing because he doesn't have anyone. Mm-hmm. But it also makes you feel good because you're like, oh, good, he's not one of those guys.
Yeah.
I would rather him be alone than be with a woman in the way that the other guys are.
Yeah, I think so.
I loved how much, like, business he does. That meaning, I think that's like an acting term, right? Not literal business, but like there's that scene where he just has to make a bunch of phone calls.
Yes.
And I don't think they cut on him. He's doing it in one take, and he's just so fastidious and particular in his movements that it just informs who his character is in the way he moves.
Yeah, he does look very, like, meticulous.
Yeah.
Like, he does this all the time. This is not the first time he's had to, like, call and juggle everyone's schedules around. It's like, okay, first you call this guy, okay, first you call now this guy, and, like, this is going here and that guy's going here, and it's just like he's done this before. This is muscle memory at this point.
And a scene where someone just makes, I think, like 6-7 phone calls should be a terrible scene. It shouldn't go on for that long. But he manages to keep you engaged by all this business that he's doing and how he goes about doing it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I don't know, like, I feel like current movies, you don't, like, you see people at work, and I use that, like, term loosely, they're in an office, they're like, but they're really only there to be in an office. They're not actually working. And it felt like Mr. Baxter is, like, actually working.
Even though he's not.
Even
the
though
work
he's not.
Doing is
but he's like
extracurricular.
doing office
He's
things,
doing stuff, yeah.
Which I feel like current movies like don't always do. They're like, look, I'm in an office. End of office time.
His little bit of adding wise to the end of things, I get how that could be annoying and like a little bit cutesy script wise, but it doesn't annoy me because I think that also informs his character because he picks it up from, I forget what that one executive's name is, Kirkaby, something like that. And it's showing him trying to be more like that guy, trying to fit in. But ultimately he can't because he has a soul and isn't willing to exploit people, even if he's willing to be exploited himself. With him and Miss Kubelik, there are two things that we don't see very often in film. Someone, Baxter, who is caught up in the mess of all of these assholes and their romance. He's not particularly the victim, but he is caught up in all of that nonsense. And with Shirley MacLaine's character, Miss Kubelik, she's the other woman, which is not a role that we usually see as one of the main characters. Mm-hmm. Usually the other woman is the villain or something that we see in passing. We aren't often forced to sympathize or empathize with that character. And even the idea of an understandable reason why people would do this sort of thing, or why people stay in abusive relationships of any sort, whether it's physical or just neglectful like this, you can see how she wants to believe and how he gives her just enough that she does believe that things will get better, but we are on the outside knowing like, no, it's not. Like, what are you doing here? We see that. I think we'll talk about dramatic irony in this movie in general because there's so much of it, but that's probably the best use of it. And Shirley MacLaine, similar but also kind of opposite from Jack Lemmon. Both of them do so much without ever having to give big impassioned speeches. Nobody's screaming or yelling with the two of them.
Yeah.
Lemmon's doing it with this very nuanced physicality, and MacLaine is doing it. She does more with a slightly tearful, choked out line than other people do when they're like sobbing and beating their breasts. What's that term? Brow beating? No, that's when you're yelling at someone. Tearing their hair and all that sort of stuff. She does it with such subtlety that when her facade breaks, it's all the more affecting.
Yeah.
I think she's just fantastic.
Oh, she was so great. It felt like one of those like movies where you already kind of know the characters. Like, I don't want to say like a sequel because sequels aren't always the best, but like it felt like we already knew who these characters were. There wasn't a huge exposition dump. We weren't like attempting to learn about them as they were already in the story. It felt like we already knew them.
And I think that's both, of course, the strength of these two performances, but of the script. That's why I said this would be such a good movie to just watch and talk about. But every scene with them, if you just look at the background of Baxter's apartment, it sets up this sad little life that you were talking about.
Yeah.
If you see how Kubelik talks to the people in the elevator and these little glances she has, which pay off later because we know what these different people mean to her. Everything is so economical and pointed to make you feel certain ways about these people. And I think it's just so well done. The script of this, I think, it's just fantastic. And just like I was saying, how I appreciated Baxter was kind of a gray area, not this perfect hero that's going to come rescue a damsel in distress and not the slime ball, but someone who's figuring things out on the way. I like that Kubelik is clearly not in a position of power, but I like that she's also not weak and helpless and waiting to be rescued. She is at the mercy of her emotions and of love, but she has a backbone.
Yes.
More than Baxter does, I'd argue, for most of the movie.
She feels like a character that like has her eyes open. She knows how the world works. She knows how her choices will like affect her down the line. She knows that like what she's doing probably isn't great, but she's like, well, there's nothing else going on for me, so like why not date the boss?
Yeah, there's that line that I mentioned in the pre-episode that I remembered all this time of, when you're in love with a married man, you shouldn't wear mascara.
Yeah.
That line, of course, it's funny, but it speaks to exactly what you were just saying. Because I remembered that line because it's great, it's clever, but it also says something really brutal and injects comedy as well, which is not an easy thing to do, but I think that's what this movie's all about. It has some very, very dark stuff and is also hilarious and light, which is not easy. But what you were talking about, that line also shows some self-awareness on her part, because she doesn't say you should never be with a married man.
No.
She knows she's going to be, and she feels kind of helpless about that.
Yeah.
She knows what will happen, but does it anyways. Mm-hmm. And all she can take away at this point, because she knows she's a slave to her own emotions, to her love for this man, despite her best wishes. She doesn't want to be. It's against her own will, it seems like. And the only lesson that she can take away from it is, well, I should learn to not wear mascara when I do this to myself.
Yeah, because it's going to happen.
Yeah. It makes it kind of inevitable, the way that it's phrased that way, which I think is really clever, how she is portrayed as someone who is not just I was going to say not foolishly in love, but she absolutely is. But her self-awareness of her foolishness separates it from a lot of more one-dimensional characters.
Yeah, she knows.
Yeah.
She knows what's happening. She knows what she's doing. And the consequences of her actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yet is ultimately helpless to do anything about that, which is somehow so much more relatable than someone who is just head over heels in love and has blinders on.
Yes, and
she sees it
not
and
seeing it.
Wants to get out, but can't until much later.
Yeah.
And this character itself is very rare, especially for movies at the time, because in previous movies that would deal with infidelities and affairs, it was all under Hays Code stuff. So the only way you could have a character like that is have them be the villain, and that's where the film femme fatale comes from. Oh. Someone who is using her sexuality to cause trouble, to get revenge, to get what she wants. And that got, that swept up cinema for many years, and you still see that appearing all the time. Mm-hmm. And this is such a contrast to what women who have affairs have been represented as in cinema. She was very unique for this very nuanced portrayal we see of someone who is knowingly having a relationship with a married man, but at least I feel for her, not for this man.
Yeah, it did feel like she was stuck but like unbelieving that she could do better.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And I think that's kind of why it feels kind of relatable, is like you can see how this situation happens. Someone in a position of power, someone in a very like not a position of power is like how do you get out of that situation when you're the one without the power? And if he keeps asking you back, then like, how do you get out of that? And I feel like if you're not super like assertive or like outspoken, it's going to be hard for you to do that. And you can see that struggle throughout the movie.
I think that leads into what I wanted to talk about next, with how this movie, this script, is so great at using dramatic irony and setups and payoffs. Dramatic irony, if you missed your grade 10 English class, is when we, the audience, know something that the characters do not. And I think one of the best ways, because it's something that many of us see in the real world, is what you were just talking about. How Fran thinks that Sheldrake is going to leave his wife, but we know that he's not going to. He's just leading her on. So he says that, and we even have him mention to Baxter, like, oh, you know how women believe that sort of thing. Why would they get that idea? Well, because you specifically told her. That's why.
Yeah.
But this kind of relationship in general, I think probably many of us have known someone who is in a relationship that is bad for them and everyone outside of them can see it.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, you're blind to it. And she is that.
And even if your friends are like, why are you doing this to yourself?
Right.
They're like, but he loves me, or she's great, or like whatever. It's like, no matter what the outside is saying to you, you can't.
It's something you kind of have to figure out for yourself.
Yeah.
And she does, luckily. But that, I think, is one of the best use of that dramatic irony. One I wanted to ask you about because it was your first time watching it. So when Baxter gets tickets to go see Music Man and he asks out Ms. Kubelik, do they say Kubelik or Kubelik? Kubelik. Whatever. Fran.
I cannot remember. Fran.
Asks out Fran. And she says, oh, she can't because she has a date. Did you figure out right then, like, oh, she's with Sheldrake?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I bet. Well, so I didn't know that it was Sheldrake, but I did think that it was one of the guys.
Right.
One of the, like,
but
five
Sheldrake
at that
said he
point.
couldn't use the tickets because he has a date.
Yes. I had a feeling it was him. I also kind of at that point thought that it could be like any of them.
That's true. There's a lot of that going on.
But it was very much like, oh, the woman he's interested in is clearly dating one of these other guys. Yeah. And it's like not a great situation for anybody. I feel like, was it Marvelous Miss Maisel, which was also during Music Man time? So this is the second show that we watched that mentions the Music Man. But yeah, I felt sad for him because I knew this wasn't going to end well.
I like that they let the audience figure that out before the protagonist can. Mm-hmm. So we know something that Baxter doesn't. And that's fun. That's just very basic script writing. But you know what? It's very effective.
It was.
And then the comedic situations with the neighbors when they think he's up to all sorts of things, but we, of course, know the truth behind it. It's fun to be in on a secret that characters in the movies are not. It's the same way Wilder and I think it's Diamond was the name of the co-writer on this. They do things that people often do in mystery movies and novels where we are figuring things out and we're waiting for the detective to catch up.
Right, yeah.
They're doing that with relationships and with comedy, and I think that's brilliant. None of this is especially complex, like the one about the date. You figured that out pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
But it's fun to be in on that before the characters are.
Yeah, it was interesting to kind of piece it all together and to kind of like come up with your own thoughts, and to watch it all unfold while you're like, no, but like she's dating your boss. Mm-hmm. And like knowing all of those things kind of makes it even more agonizing to watch.
Yeah, because I hate movies that will just tell you what happens and then you're following along and oh, okay, cool. And then I think the next step is when things surprise you. And I think maybe this movie does that too. Mm-hmm. But I especially love when you can figure something out and then have what you think already reinforced by the movie afterwards. Mm-hmm. I think that works very well, and they do a lot of that because there's some setups and payoffs in this movie that make a lot of sense that if you look at them individually, sometimes they can seem kind of clunky and apparent, but they're done so well in this one. Like early on in the movie, he's finding all sorts of stuff in his couch. There's like little hair clips and everything. So that's already set up as a thing that happens. So then when he finds the mirror, oh yeah, that's just another thing. We don't draw too much attention to the mirror. He doesn't go like, hey, a mirror, what could this mean? We already know he finds all these sorts of things. So then when he takes the mirror and we find out who it is, because when Miss Kubelik opens it up,
right,
and we have the very great scene with her of like, oh, I like it. It makes me look the way I feel. Which is
broken.
Yeah, on the nose, sure,
Which,
but
like,
it just
whoa.
works so well when she's saying it.
Yeah, it's always that was quite the line, and like really drives that point home.
Yeah,
she knows what she's doing, and she knows that it's not good for her. But like, what is she gonna do?
And at the same time, Baxter is finally catching up to where we are, because when he sees she has that mirror, he now knows that she's been the one in his apartment, and we see his heart break, but simultaneously we're seeing her heart not break, but we're seeing how it is broken, how she is broken. And that mirroring that they do between the two of them is fantastic. That goes on throughout the movie. I'm not going to go scene by scene, but we often bounce between the two of them at very similar points in their lives, in their emotions, and it's very clever the way it does that.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the one with the gun, I think, was very well done too, because after she has already tried to kill herself, which was the sleeping pills that he got because he can't go to sleep because he got sick. And we already set up those pills too. Every little thing that pays off later was set up earlier in the movie. He makes a point of putting those pills up and then she takes them. But he's then saying like, oh yeah, I almost killed myself once too.
Yeah.
When he said that on my first watch, I assumed he was saying that for her benefit, that's not true.
Oh, that it was like a nice lie.
Yeah, he was saying like, oh, I understand where you're coming from, and he's trying to relate to her.
Right, like what is that called? A kind falsehood or something?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to commiserate when he hasn't actually been at that level. That's what I assumed. How did you feel?
It felt like he understood because he had been there before, and like in that moment he was so like brutally honest with her that it felt like, I don't know, it felt like those two were like kind of destined to be together.
Oh, so you assumed he was telling the truth?
I think so.
Oh, okay. So when he talks about how it's not easy to shoot yourself, I thought maybe he was just doing it to make her feel better. And then when he's packing up his apartment, we see the gun.
Right.
That was the point where I was like, oh, he meant it.
He did it. Yeah, he was like going to.
Also, in this hilarious movie, also almost killed himself once.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's harsh. And this is at a point where he's seemingly at a low point. He's at a turning point, maybe. We don't know if it's a low point where he's going to build from, or if this is where he is going to turn for the worse. And we also see Dr. Dreyfus give him a champagne bottle. Mm-hmm. That's set up too. So then when she is running to see him, and it's going to be this, we assume, great reconciliation, or maybe the start of a new love, we hear the bang. And you think, I assumed, you think that he shot himself. I assume that
he shot himself, yeah.
And then when it's the misdirection of the popping cork, I didn't feel like, I didn't feel cheap to me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where a similar setup like that is very cheap because it didn't have those emotional stakes, but he actually was in that state of mind before in his life. And the gun and the champagne bottle were set up. So I didn't feel like the movie was just being emotionally manipulative, which a lot of movies do. Like even great movies, like Schindler's List, I was always very angry at because there's a scene where they're going into the gas chamber and they turn on the shower. Oh, it was just a shower. Gotcha, guys. And that's for the purpose of alleviating tension and to like get us. But I find that manipulative. I find this very earned because it's almost taking us to a point where he once was, because he was at that point before.
Yeah.
We never saw that point, but now we're kind of getting to feel it here. And that's one of those things that I feel is just brilliant in this movie.
Yeah, I felt like there wasn't a lot of things in this movie that were like unbelievable. I feel like I'm just ragging on modern movies, but like I feel like so many movies are like, well, it probably wouldn't happen in real life. This felt like most things could happen in real life.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I really enjoyed, and it kind of kept you in the storyline really well. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt it was very realistic and realist in a real harsh and brutal way at times. There's other things like when he is talking about, oh, Mr. Sheldrake, I'm going to take her off your hands. And then Sheldrake uses those same words. That's not just funny because they're both saying the same thing, but that also makes you question Baxter's motivation, because when he is sounding like this asshole, then we're like, oh, we're not sure about his intentions. Or at least that's how I read it, because I did think that Baxter wasn't a great guy at this point. Because he is saying like, oh, I'll take this woman off your hands for you.
Yeah.
Just like it's something that he can just like, yeah, I'll take it. No big deal. That she is something that he can just take. It's later on, after going through everything and getting to his own low point and really being a mensch, of getting punched in the jaw, not saying anything about it, letting people believe these bad things about him so it protects other people, and kind of finding himself, rejecting this corporate, or not even the corporate nature of it, but I think there's a lot about capitalism and corporate nature, because of course I do. That's where my mind goes, because it's all junk. But that world of capitalism and misogyny, he rejects all that. Then in, I think, the viewer's mind, he is finally going to be more worthy of potentially having a relationship with Fran. At that point, he wasn't. He was just like, yeah, I'll take her for you.
Yeah, which doesn't feel great when he says it.
Yeah. So I like that he wasn't a great guy and gets there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it makes you feel kind of shitty when you're like, well, I'll take her off your hands.
Yeah, like he's doing her a favor.
Yeah.
Doing him a favor. Another fun little setup is in the bar, the Christmas music is playing "O Come All Ye Faithful."
Yeah.
And nobody is faithful in that scene.
No. Yeah, that was funny. The parties in this office.
Oh yeah, the Christmas party.
Seem wild. Like,
in Mad Men, we'll get to a Christmas party,
okay,
and
great.
it'll probably be pretty similar.
I cannot wait. The 60s seem like the wild west of office politics.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, there are people dancing on desks. There's women just like making out with people in the office who I assume they don't work with their spouse. So I just like thought it was a crazy like environment.
For a movie that was made before the terms sexual harassment or sexual politics existed, this movie nails a lot of it.
Oh, yeah. I feel like you could use this and like use clips from it for a good sexual harassment video. Inappropriate office conduct. Yeah. I do want to like kind of go to one of those parties, though. It seemed... just to like see what's happening, it seems crazy.
Yeah.
And the fact that they all seem drunk at like noon.
Yeah, another famous thing of the time.
Just like constant drinking in the office is like a wild thought.
Before we talk about the Christmassy nature of it and wrap up with some of our favorite things, can I go on my anti-capitalist bit for a bit?
Go!
Right from the beginning, we have that voiceover of Baxter, which we don't get, I don't think we get at all later, but he's going with all those statistics, and it puts us in his world where he's always dealing with figures and numbers, but it also does something to commodify humanity. People are reduced to numbers in his world, just as Baxter and Kubelik are by the higher ups. They don't really know these people or care about them. Kubelik is just a line in Women for Sheldrake and will most likely be replaced pretty soon. And Baxter, they don't even really know his name. They call him Buddy Boy, but they don't know who this guy is. And them encroaching on Baxter's out of work life with the apartment, taking his time, is also, I think, pretty symbolic of how exploitation of the worker, about extracting every last thing from the commodity that is the worker in this point. And a lot of modern movies get into critical takes of corporate America, but usually we follow along with the protagonist who is successful, but who is taking advantage of other people and other things for their own gain. But in those ones, you always have the danger of glamorizing what the writer might be intending to villainize, like things like Wolf of Wall Street. Mm-hmm. So many people watch that movie are like, yeah, that was awesome. Looks great.
That wasn't the point.
That guy did all of these things, had all these beautiful women. Cool movie. But here we are forced to identify with the victims of it in Kubelik and Baxter, and who are caught in the wheels of this capitalist mechanism and are getting run over by it. The end of my anti-capitalist bit.
Yeah, it's good points.
Thanks.
I don't know how to follow that up, but yeah, I agree.
How did this feel as a Christmas movie to you? Was it a Christmas movie at all, or just kind of had some Christmas in it?
It took place at Christmas.
Yeah.
I didn't think that like much of it felt okay, so that's a lie. I feel like when he's drunk at the bar and meets that woman and he's sitting with her, it did feel like the most depressing Christmas ever.
Yeah.
because you really get that, like, if you don't have somewhere to go and someone to love, there's like no point of Christmas. And that's the only part that really felt Christmassy to me, which is weird, but like it just felt like he was doing Christmas wrong and he knew it. And that was really the only part where like it could have been any time of year in the other parts of the movie, but there's like a certain Christmas depression that you felt there.
I absolutely agree, because I think Christmas movies, we do get some modern ones on this side, but Christmas movies are in two camps, and this is the best time of year when you are with loved ones to celebrate with, but for those who don't, it's especially lonely. Mm-hmm. And most movies, of course, are happy Christmas movies, and it's about people coming together at Christmas and everybody's happy, and often finding each other at Christmas and everybody's happy. And then we have some more modern ones where it is about the dark side, about being lonely at Christmas. And that's what we see in this movie. But we also do get the former as well, because they do come together over the holidays. We get two incredibly lonely characters who have attempted to cure this loneliness in different ways and failed. And now they are alone on Christmas. But then they are pushed together by circumstance. And it's ultimately, eventually, an uplift in Christmas movies because they do find something in each other. So it doesn't feel very Christmassy, but it does the things that good Christmas movies do. It explores both the loneliness of the season and how the season can bring people together. Mm-hmm. It's just not very explicit because it's more about the characters themselves than some external Christmassy stuff that brings them together.
Yeah.
But I think it does what a Christmas movie does, but I also don't care about the debate of if it's a Christmas movie or not.
Yeah, I mean,
I just think it has Christmassy stuff in it, and it has a lot of those shared elements of good Christmas movies.
Mm-hmm. I also feel like this doesn't feel like a Christmas movie because Christmas movies now, like capital letter Christmas movies, are like Christmas.
That's true.
Screamed at you for 2 hours. And this was like, it takes place at Christmas and there's like a few Christmas elements. And then you get like movies now where it's just like insane amounts of Christmas and everything's Christmas, and there's like ornaments and cookies and music and like every third word is Christmas. And so I feel like this one doesn't feel Christmassy because it doesn't follow the modern interpretation of a Christmas movie.
No, but I think it sets, I was going to say first, it has that heart that modern Christmas movies do, but it kind of sets up that heart that modern Christmas movies do.
Yeah.
But without the extra layers of Christmas on top.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, I think my voice is close to going.
Okay.
Do you have any last things, scenes, or bits that you liked or did not like?
I don't have anything that I liked or didn't like to add, but I did just want to say that like this performance from Shirley MacLaine, and I remember when we did this pre-episode, you had mentioned that it was Shirley MacLaine, and for some reason that didn't click in my head because I thought this actress was wonderful, and I looked her up after, and I was like, "Oh, that's like the Shirley MacLaine."
That's the Shirley MacLaine.
I did not make the connection, and honestly, I feel like I don't know Shirley MacLaine from like her golden years
because she was so good later in her career too, that people of our age, like even her stuff in the 90s, we were young kids then. But she was so good then that it took me a while to discover everything she was doing in the 60s, 50s too.
I never really considered what she was like when she was younger because I've always known her as the like more grandmother-y Shirley MacLaine. Sure. And so this was like, I made the connection when we'd already watched it, and I was like, wow, that's wild. Yeah. Like, that is such a weird connection. And it did not strike me as Shirley MacLaine because, like, a lot of actors who have, like, big careers when they're young and then also big careers when they're older and, like, throughout their entire life, they become a bit of a caricature.
Yeah, like I was saying how one day I'm going to show you young Pacino, and when I showed you young De Niro, you're like, oh, he was handsome? I didn't know that.
And suddenly it's like two completely different people to me.
Yeah.
And so Shirley MacLaine as like older Shirley MacLaine, while like amazing and fabulous and like did some really great stuff that I enjoyed, I really don't know how to connect her to young Shirley MacLaine from this movie.
Because unfortunately, a lot of older, especially women, don't get to carry a movie.
No.
She's been a great supporting role in so many things.
Exactly.
But here she's carrying scenes.
Yes. And she is a bigger personality. Mm-hmm. She's like doing the most with the small amount of time that they give her on screen. So like, I really just think that like, it helps me to see her as a leading lady, like an unlikely leading lady, but a leading lady. And I really, really enjoyed her from this.
Did you have a favorite scene of hers?
I really liked the elevator scenes. I don't know what it was. And maybe it was just because it was like kind of simple and like flirty and like basic.
She does a lot with a little in those ones especially.
She does some really good like eye acting, if that makes sense, and like just like the coquettish glance. She does a really good job of that. And I just really think that like she shone in those moments where she wasn't really saying anything other than like greeting people, and when she was just kind of doing body acting. I really liked her in that.
The first one that I always think of is when he's trying on his hats and going like, oh, what do you think about this? What if I have a rakish tilt? And she's almost crying. And then he sees the mirror. So then he gets to that point too. And that's when she has her, it makes me look the way I feel line. Mm-hmm. That always come to mind. But I think the single best one is when Sheldrake said, oh, I didn't know what to get you. So here's $100, buy yourself something nice. And she doesn't even say anything initially. It's just her face and how all joy is taken out of it.
Yeah.
And she starts taking off her clothes.
Yeah.
And implying, of course, like, well, if you're going to treat me like a prostitute, then I guess this is what we're going to do now.
Keep, I guess. Yeah.
It was so heartbreaking, that scene.
Sad. That was such a sad scene. I kind of forgot about that, actually.
And I think that is the one that is paralleled with Baxter meeting that woman at the bar. Mm-hmm. They're both having their low points at the same time. And him at the bar was very much the same. It's funny in a way because he's dancing cheek to cheek with that woman. And of course she has this over the top accent and she's talking about her jockey husband and everything. And it's funny, but it's also so sad that for not just for him, but for this woman too, because they are both so alone on Christmas. And he's going to take this woman home. He doesn't love her. No. She doesn't love him. They're just both going to give each other some momentary comfort, some solace that there's someone else. Not that you are now with someone else, but there's someone else out there as lonely as you, and we'll be together for this one night, and then that's it.
And also, I feel like there was a feeling of like proving that there is someone else out there that wants you.
Oh, maybe. I didn't get that as much, but I could see it.
I feel like when you get rejected real hard, you want to go out and just like show yourself that you're still like relevant.
I felt with him, it was less of he never really got to be a I'll show you kind of guy. He just got low and was like, I'm down here. Who else is down here with me? Yeah. That's how I kind of took it.
I could see that too.
But yeah, those two parallel scenes was another part of that, how they would go back and forth between the two, and they're on very similar journeys, even if they didn't know it. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite lines is, do you bring other dames up here? Of course not. I'm a happily married man. That's very funny.
Yeah.
So many great one-liners in this. One little fun thing I wanted to mention was, that big giant workroom where they have all the desks.
Yes. Yeah.
So, of course, this is before CG of any sort. So did they just have hundreds and hundreds of people working in there? No, they made smaller and smaller desks.
Oh, to make it like...
Because they didn't have a large space. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a football field-sized room. So the desks get smaller and smaller. So the first few rows are adults. Then the next few rows are children. And in the very back, it's like paper marionettes.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that's just ingenious.
It just reminded me of where I work in like the cubicle farm. Of like, there's cubicles as far as the eye can see.
I also never even talked about Wilder's his direction, his camera movement, but I do think that there are so many times in this movie where it's just a shot of two people sitting at a table. And I know you like to always compare to Marvel movies, but we did just watch Wicked, and I said, there's so much great about this movie, but it's so convoluted that I can't know what to look at.
Right.
There were so many shots in this that were just two people at a desk or something that I thought were more beautiful, and I could understand the theme of it just by looking at it than I could in a movie like that had so much that was telling you what to think, but there's so much that it was overwhelming.
Right.
And this had such great economy of storytelling, of character development, and of the direction of how this camera, it moves a lot more than movies in the 60s do. The camera is tracking and dollying all over the place, but it's seamless and unobtrusive. Inobtrusive?
Unobtrusive?
Not obtrusive. It just gets to the heart of the story, of the emotion. It knows that the story and the characters are more important than anything else, and it lets them shine. It works in service. The camera movement works in service of the story and doesn't tell you what the story is. It doesn't try to convince you with something by how they're shooting it. It lets it unfold to you. And then I guess the very, very end with the shut up and deal.
Yeah, I liked that. I liked the ending of this.
I did too, because I would have felt it was forced if they had like a big kiss at the end. That would have been too much, I think.
Yeah, because it wasn't an overtly romantic movie.
I don't know. I guess we're just being nitpicky on what we think romantic means. But no, it's not a movie that should end with these two people, the music swelling, and them kissing.
Kiss at the end.
That's not what it should be.
I guess that's, it just didn't feel like a movie where that was happening in the first place. So why would it happen at the end?
Yeah. This movie was based on like people dealing with harsh realities. To have it have an over-the-top Hollywood ending would feel tacked on. Yeah. It would feel too much. And this one, it's vague enough, but it's vague enough that I feel like these characters would be here. It doesn't feel like they're doing more than they would. Yeah. It's still a little open-ended, but it's uplifting enough that I feel like, no, it's going to go well. Yeah. You don't think like, oh, they're going to be in love forever and get married and have all these children, but you feel like they have a chance.
They do. Yeah, no, that is exactly how it feels. It feels very real. It feels very like plausible.
And for a movie that has been mired in, I don't want to say cynicism, but reality with harsh realizations, I think them having a chance is enough. Yeah. I think it's perfect.
I agree.
I think this movie is pretty close to perfect, especially the script. I love this movie. Samantha likes it pretty well.
I thought it was charming.
It was charming. I think it was more than charming. There's a lot of movies that I think are charming and fun, but this one, it's so well crafted, and it's hard to talk about the craft of cinema with the same passion that you would with the emotions of the characters, because that's more linked with passion. So that's where we kind of spent more of the time, but it's so technically well done as well to go along with what I think is a great story and some great performances. So if you haven't seen it already, well, we ruined it all. But go back and watch The Apartment, because you know what? You can learn all this and then you go watch it. I think it's better.
Go see it.
Go watch The Apartment. It's streaming in some places. I put a link in the show notes, so that's where you can go see it.
Awesome. Okay, we'll see you next week when I reveal the Christmassy movie for the week after.
Oh yeah, I bet it's going to be a little more Christmassy.
It's going to be extremely Christmassy.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. See you next week, everybody.
Ho, ho, ho.